Now, here we are. So if there's something very specific about your academic record, feel free to ask me directly over an email, okay? So this Master of Chemical Science program, it's a professional master's, and the difference between a professional master's and a master in chemistry is that it's a terminal degree by definition. When I was younger and I went to graduate school, in that time there was, if you wanted to do a master, your only option was to enroll into a PhD program, which is 5 years. And if you didn't want to continue into your PhD, then after your 2 years and you completed the requirements for your master's, you flunked out of the program, and you typically get an MS, Master of Science, with that. And at some point when I was back in the day, that had like a bad reputation because a master's degree in chemistry at that point meant that you flunked out of your PhD program. Now, there are different types of professional masters in the area of chemistry. We have, when students graduate from our program, they have the title of Master of Chemical Sciences, to distinguish from the MS program that the PhD has, which is if you flunked out of the PhD program. Our professional degree, it's very research-based, it's very theoretical-based, and you can complete it in 2 years if you're a full-time, you can or less, or 4 years if you're a part-time student. All of our degrees require a capstone, which is a thesis. So everybody graduates with a thesis. We call it a capstone, regardless of if you do a research project or a literature review. So when students enroll in the program, and this starts before the admissions process, like when you're in the admission process, you have to select a concentration. So different from other professional masters out there, ours are very open-ended. And the concentrations that we offer are biological, inorganic, organic, and physical. Now, if you choose the materials or environmental chemistry concentration, you still have to choose an emphasis in either biological, inorganic, organic, or physical, because you can have organic or biological materials, and that determines the courses that you take, okay? So it's not thematic, like there's some out there that narrow into a specific discipline. You can do it in any of these disciplines and combine them as well. And it's all tied together with your research project or capstone. The students that join the program join the benefit of being within the chemistry department. The chemistry department is highly ranked, especially the PhD program. The PhD program is ranked 18th overall, and in the organic division, it's ranked 8th nationwide, okay? We have a large number of faculty members. All of them are very renowned researchers, and they've won many prizes, including Nobel Prizes. And some of them are affiliated in other departments, such as medicine, School of Medicine, pharmacology, engineering. They have joint appointments. This degree was created keeping two populations in mind. And one of those populations was the people that did not want to just stay with a bachelor's and needed an additional education and join the workforce, okay? And the employment outlook shows that for 2022, there's going to be an expected increase in different market segments, which are pharmaceutical is one of them, chemical manufacturing is one of them, and we have many companies nearby that we have agreements that you could do your capstone there and increases your chances of getting employed. This is a possibility for you whether you're a US citizen or an international student, okay? The other part of creating this degree was that a market study showed that a company is more likely to employ you with a master's degree than with a PhD degree. Um, because you will gain through this degree more skills to be able to do research and have a research career within industry, but they don't have to really pay you as much as a PhD. You don't really need a PhD. If you're one of those students that say, I'm not sure I really want a PhD and maybe go to industry, then, and you might not have all the research experience that a very competitive PhD program requires, such as here at Penn, then this degree will give you the theoretical background and the additional research experience that you will need to go into those very competitive PhD programs. You gain access to state-of-the-art, all of the chemistry department through this degree. And this is just a results of ACS study, American Chemical Society, that they did a salary study. And you can see that depending on different parts of the United States, it's that where you choose to work. A master's degree, you get better paid in different industries overall than with a bachelor's degree. And also your opportunities of advancing in that company, it's higher with a master's than with a bachelor's degree. From our program, we've had 10 students graduate from the program. It's a relatively young program. And we have a high number of international students in the program. They both come from either international institution or they did their degree at a US institution. We have 100% placement of students in labs. There's no other professional degree that can do such a claim. So everybody's placed in a lab by the end of their first year, most of them, or at least 50% of the incoming class by the end of their first semester. We have a very high student retention and completion rate, which is above 90%. And this is due to the mentoring and advising that it's embedded in the program. From our graduates, 60% were accepted into highly competitive PhD programs. And this include UPenn Chemistry, UCLA, and UC San Diego. 20% pursue career industry and 20% pursue a career in academia. One of them is teaching at the Coast Guard Academy, and another student is a researcher at a government institution in his country, in Kazakhstan. In addition to that, one of our alumni who continue to a PhD program obtained a National Science Foundation, very prestigious graduate research fellowship. It's a highly competitive degree. And she was able to obtain that for her credentials, but also because she continued her research here at Penn, and she had good data and good experience in order to be able to write such competitive solicitation proposal. You can see here the percentage of male and females in the program, and also the US citizens versus international. The letters here in blue tells us from our graduates what they think sets our program apart. And they say it's cohort building activities and networking. We try to create a community, both for the first and second year students. There's a lot of mentoring, a lot of comes from me. Our faculty members here are very nurturing as well. And their opportunity to network with students, faculty, and industry representatives. We really stress in the program the professional and communication skills development. These are key skills that you need to have when you join the workforce or continue to your PhD program. So not only are we teaching you the scientific background that you need, but we're also giving you those skills that you need to pursue. Because all students take a course at the beginning of the semester with me, I can identify the skills that the students need to work on during the 2-year program. All of our students at the moment are full-time. That's why I keep referring to 2 years. And we can do a individualized development plan to make sure that the students are hitting those skills and becoming more marketable by the time they graduate from the program. In terms of admissions, students in our program do not need to have a bachelor's in chemistry. We have students that have bachelor's in biochemistry, engineering, different degrees. But you do need a strong science background. And the reason for that is the students are taking the same courses as the PhD students. Because our PhD program is so highly ranked, courses tend to be pretty challenging. They're doable, but they're challenging. It takes time and effort to do well in the classes. So we want to make sure that you have that background. And the courses that we're going to look at in your application are to having 2 semesters of calculus, general chemistry, which in some places they call it inorganic chemistry in their lab, a whole year of organic chemistry and physics. Now, let's say you're hitting for like the inorganic, physical, and biological concentration. You're going to need some additional advanced courses in order to do well in those courses. So you're going to need an inorganic course for inorganic. We look at the physical chemistry courses for PChem and also advanced math courses for the physical concentration. We also look at your biochemistry and your biology courses and how you've been doing. This is not the only criteria, but we want to make sure that you have the background for that. If you're coming from engineering, we look at some specific courses. That's a one-on-one discussion that we can have. Students need to complete an online application and pay a fee. If you're applying to more than one program within Penn, there's a reduced application fee. So you could apply to the PhD and this program at the same time. You will also need to upload a current resume, an essay, and you should look into the admissions page, because there are very specific questions that we're asking. So, if you address those questions in your essay, that's more power to you. And one of the questions that we ask is like, if there's something in your record that you want to discuss, like let's say you did badly at the beginning of the semester, you had a bad semester, or something along those lines, you had problem adjusting or something like that, that it's clearly shown from your transcript, you should address it. You should not leave it as an elephant in the room, right? You're going to have to submit some transcript. If you did your degree at a U.S. institution, unofficial transcripts are okay for your application. If you get accepted in the program, then once you finish your degree, then you need to submit, and you take that offer, then you need to submit a final transcript with your degree in it. If you did your degree at an international, non-U.S. institution, you need to submit an official transcript to a WES. This is in the website. And this service, what it does, it's not only translates the transcript, but also convalidates and do the academic translation, if you will, between your institution and the U.S. system, because we recognize that we have a very different system than most of the other countries. You will need 2 to 3 letters of recommendations. Be strategic about it. You're going to need the GRE scores. We only ask for the general GRE score. If you have the chemistry GRE score and it's good, it doesn't hurt. It really adds to your application, okay? So when you're applying, and let's say the deadline comes, what you want to do is just make sure that you complete your online application, you pay your fee, you upload the documents that are the current resume, your essay, your transcript, and put the information of your recommenders. And make sure that you you send your GRE scores and your TOEFL if you need to take them to the institutional code 2986. I repeat, 2986. This institutional code corresponds to the College of Liberal and Professional Studies, which is where this degree does the administrative things. If you send it to chemistry, it will get lost. You're going to have to resend it. Okay? Once people submit your recommendation letters and the scores get there, then we're ready to see your application. And your application is viewed by a committee, and the decision is made by a committee. If you're an international student, we need a TOEFL minimum score of 100 and speaking 20. We will do an oral interview through Zoom, and then you need to send your transcript through WES, okay? If you're an international student who did your degree at a US institution, a TOEFL waiver is not automatic. You need to request that, and you will receive a letter for that, okay? And that is in the case that English is not your first language. If you are an international student who English is your first language, England, United Kingdom, then, you know, make sure you communicate that with the admissions officer. In terms of the requirements, you need to complete 10 CUs. And Penn has this really funny system. They don't use credits. They use course units. So a course unit is equivalent to 3 credits. So 1 CU is equivalent to 3 credits. So if I say you need to complete 10 CUs, that means it's a 30 credits degree, okay? So your credit units, one of them is a pro seminar. It's a professional development course that all first-year students take the first year, the first semester. It is helping you in the transition to the program and also developing communication, technical writing, and different professional skills. It also gives you the information for you to be able to select your capstone research lab or literature review, if that's what you want. You're going to take some core concentration courses. The first semester is pretty much very prescribed depending on your concentration and your research interest. Once you define your research interest, some of the courses the second semester are somewhat prescribed and somewhat combined depending if you do a more interdisciplinary research project. There are some electives that include research courses. And then in terms of your research courses, there's a Capstone Project that you take 1 to 2 CUs, depending on the length of what you do. Students meet with me once or twice a semester at least to select the courses, and I help you with that. You do a little homework before you come to those sessions. We try to really tailor the program to your needs. We want to make sure that the courses are useful to you towards your degree and future professional goals. So in here you have an example of your organic with emphasis in environmental sciences with a subdiscipline of modeling. And as you can see, students typically take 4 to 3 classes the first 2 semesters, and it depends on your background. All of the people that get admitted and end up coming take a placement test during youth student orientation, which we do the first week prior to classes starting. And depending on how you do there, then we decide what courses you take. If it's 3 or 4, it's a better course of action. But all students take the pro seminar. Then by the spring semester, most students submit their the capstone proposal. You need to submit a proposal before you start your research officially. You can do some independent study ahead of that. And then students tend to start research in the summer. And then they complete their coursework, but the second year are mainly doing research. And we've created some research courses that even though it says you're taking 1 course, we've created them at their full-time. So if you're international, you need to be full-time because you have student loans or whatever, then we make them as such. In terms of the research courses that you take, there's a sequence to them. If you haven't submitted your capstone and you're going to join a lab here at Penn or nearby institutions, Students can take independent study. It's not a requirement. They can take that in the spring. It eases them into the lab, learn techniques, helps them write the capstone proposal. And it's like a part-time in the lab, okay? Once you submit your capstone proposal, then you take, the first time you're doing your capstone, you take MCS 698. The numbers are because of historical reason of how they were created, not in sequence. This course here is reduced course tuition, reduced tuition, but it's still a full-time in case you don't finish your capstone that second semester. And in terms of when you are going to finish, and finish means you're going to do an oral presentation and present your thesis, that's when you take MCS 699. And this is sort of how the capstone project goes. You select a faculty advisor. That usually happens the first semester. The second semester, identifying your research interest and your secondary reader, part of your committee. And you prepare and submit the proposal. But at this point, it's at the end of your second semester. And then you complete your research, which takes 2 to 3 terms, typically summer, fall, and spring. During that last semester, then you prepare and submit the report and the results, okay? Where can you do this capstone research? You have the opportunity to do it in Penn Chemistry Laboratory or an off-campus location. And we have different activities during the first semester in order for you to get familiar with what's out there and identify what's a match, and I help you with that as well. So in terms of Penn Chemistry, the laboratories are arranged into traditional divisions, but a lot of them are interdisciplinary. So for example, this professor here, Ivan Nohosky, he has people from all divisions. PChem because he does simulation, inorganic because he builds these ruthenium cages. He does biological because he attached these cages to proteins, and he's doing MRI agents. You have people that are doing more traditional research, such as Jeff Winkler. He does full synthesis. Jessica Anna does more spectroscopy, but there's a strong collaboration within people here in Penn Chemistry. In terms of off-campus research opportunities, we have formal agreements with the Bloomberg Institute, which is a consortium of research. It's a consortium of startups in medicinal chemistry. They've developed drugs in hepatitis C. Axalta is a coatings company. They're currently located in DuPont, but they're moving into Philadelphia, very close to the university. And it's a coatings company, and there's opportunity to do inorganic and polymer and even computational research. GlaxoSmithKline, it does computational, medicinal, pharmaceutical research. The Monell Center works with the science of taste and smell, and the sort of research that you can do. You can do some synthesis, some biological type of research as well. We're in process of creating an agreement with CAUS, with King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, that's located in Saudi Arabia. And that's an excellent opportunity for somebody who wants to continue to a PhD program, because the hopes is for somebody to do their capstone there. Everything will be fully paid for them, except for the tuition here, which is minimum. It's like 1/3 of your tuition. And they're looking for the students that do their capstone there, stay there for their PhD. We're in conversation with Procter & Gamble, which is consumer products, and Genesis Biotechnology Group, which is a startup company. It's near Trenton, New Jersey. The USDA, which is nearby as well, and we're still in conversations with L'Oreal. This is the current tuition fee. Your general fee now includes the use of gyms. It also includes wide student services in campus. The research facilities here at Penn are very extensive. We have 10 NMRs and dedicated experts to help you train and interpret data. We have 2 X-ray diffraction facility. We have a mass spectroscopy facility. We have even, you can do in-house high resolution mass spec for publication. We have very good cluster of computing, and half of our PChem people are dedicated to computational in different areas. We're unique in the sense that we have a high throughput experimentation facility. This was created with a company, and what you can achieve here is that you can do many reactions in the hundreds, and optimized reactions, and it's very unique. So a lot of our students are doing their capstone in an HD related research. This is also important. We have courses in HTE, and a lot of the companies these days are using this type of technology to do research. So even if you should become familiar with it, if you're organic or inorganic or you're biological. And even the organometallic course here has an HTE project. Penn has many resources, from career counseling, writing centers, graduate center, family center, the LGBT center, recreation. It's just so many resources, and they're free of charge to you. Our community is very diverse. It's very welcoming to many perspectives and cultures. And it really protects our students from any current environment. There's many arts and cultures and community involvement. It's located in a city, but it's very safe. Public transportation is amazing. You don't need a car. Philadelphia is very accessible to many cities. It's a wonderful place. I moved here 3 years ago. I'm happy. I'm so happy. I don't have a car. I go everywhere. I can go to New York in an hour and a half, DC in 2 hours. It's just an amazing hub of happening places. So this ends my end of the presentation. I don't know if I addressed certain questions. One of the questions was if we have TA opportunities. At the moment, we don't have TA opportunities, but let me pull out what some of our students do. Is there's a student employment office, and some of our students, what they do, and I just put that link in the chat. So some of our students, instead of having a TA position, what they do is they apply for a job in the student employment office. And it's a searchable database. It's actually better in a sense than TAing, because you can get a job that it doesn't require a lot of preparation. You can work up to 20 hours. It doesn't require a lot of preparation, like the library or working in the recreation center or something along those lines. And you have more time to study. And then when they transition into the second year, some of the companies, Exalta, the Bloomberg Institute, and GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, they have stipends. And their stipend is equivalent to what it will cost, the cost of tuition for your second year, which is 1/3 of your degree. It's not lucrative. You still need to pay for your tuition. Some people do loans, and that's how they pay for the degree. What other questions do you guys have for me?
I would like to clear my other questions. As you said, it is a terminal degree, but on the other hand, you said that some students continue to PhD.
That's correct. So the students that continue to a PhD program, either here at Penn or at another institution, they apply to the PhD program during the second year, the first semester of their second year. And they compete for a spot. So if you apply to Penn Chemistry PhD program, it's not a guaranteed spot. But what I do with the students that want to continue to a PhD program is that I make sure that they are placed at a Penn chemistry lab or one of the more academic industry positions. That way they can get a really good recommendation letter from that person that is recognized in the academic world. So they can continue to the PhD program. We also make a plan so they do well in their classes during their first year. So that way, because when you apply the classes that you take in the full semester, they will not be shown. So they only look at the grades in your first year. So we create a plan for them to have a strong application into a PhD program. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So then if you apply to the PhD program after completing your master's at Penn and you get accepted into the Penn PhD program, it will not be 4 more years. Typically what happens is that the first 2 years that you have here at Penn count towards that PhD degree. So you're not going to retake any of those courses. You're going to have a teaching assignment, but you're not going to retake any of those courses. If you're an organic person, you're going to have to start taking your cum exams, your cumulative exams, and you will have your oral examination by the end of that first year when you're in your PhD program. Typically, if you're doing very well in the lab, that faculty member puts a really good word on you and almost like fights for you to stay in a PhD program because they're already invested in you. It's not an additional 4. Now, if you're applying to another PhD program, what I recommend is talking to the person and say, well, you can validate at least some of these courses. And in some cases, it's true, and in some cases, it's not. For example, I had a student that she switched from biological to molecular biology degree, and because the courses were so different, she had to retake the courses. Now, what I recommend is that you save your syllabus and all of the course subscription if you're planning to go to a PhD program. So that way you can have those documents and share that at another institution if that is the case, and makes that easier for them to figure out if you need to take the courses or not. In some instances, they might say, well, I'm not going to make you take the same course, but you're still going to have to take another course. It depends. Any other questions?
Yes, you talk most of the time about organic chemistry, but what about the physical chemistry and the materials department? I see you have high-end instrumentation, but
yes,
I didn't see you talk about their, I don't know,
yeah. So for our physical, yeah. So we have a nanoscience center, a nano building, and we have. I'm gonna go back to my presentation and pull something. Give me just 1 second, and this will be helpful for you. I'm going to share my screen once again. So thank you for asking that. So if you look here, there's different people that do more of the nanoscience. It depends what part of nanoscience you're interested in. If it's more experimental, more theoretical. So if you look here into physical and theoretical, Jessica Anna, she does more laser and spectroscopy. And you can find out more about what they do in the chemistry website. Sarah Fakarai, she works with polymers and condensed matter, and she's very embedded with the LRSM and the nano world. And she has both experimental and theoretical people. Feng Guy, it's physical, but he does more biological applications. We have many lasers here, but I don't know enough about that jargon, so I don't want to sound silly talking about specific lasers. Marsha Lester, she works more with laser type of reactions, and spectroscopy type of work. Abe Nitson and Andrew Rapp, both of them are in nano-related materials research, both in type of calculations type of things. Jeff Savin does a lot of calculations, more biological. He was working in research related to binding of xenon into some of the compounds that Professor Mohalski does, okay? And he also does calculations for Professor Chenoweth in terms of the type of fluorescent dyes that he makes in the lab, Chenoweth does in the lab. Sherry Kagan, Andrea Liu, they are both affiliates and they do nano-related research. Chris Murray, it's a nano person, he comes from industry, and he does a lot of energy, solar cells, type of research and catalysis. Our inorganic people also do a lot of catalysis. So if you're talking about physical and nano related to catalysis, we also have a strength in that. We have the Think Center and the physics building across that some people collaborate with that. I hope I answer your question about that type of research. Currently, we have 3 students in physical chemistry, and they're doing fairly well. They're doing actually excellent in the program. So they didn't have any difficulties taking courses or anything, and they're really excelling in the program. What other questions do you guys have? Where do students end up working after graduation? So the first cohort of students that completed the degree mainly wanted to go into PhD programs. So that's the data that I presented. So 4 of them came here to Penn Chemistry. 1 of them went to UCLA in the molecular biology program. The student that got admitted in UC San Diego decided that she wanted to go to industry. So she's working at a startup company where she's doing both computational and synthesis in medicinal chemistry. 1 of our organic students, we had a high number of organic students, so that's why I keep talking about them. 1 of our inorganic students, he's originally from India, so he's working in research and development there. The other student that graduated, he came from the Coast Guard Academy, so he went back to teach at the Coast Guard Academy. And then the other student, he came funded by his government in Kazakhstan. So he is now a researcher in Kazakhstan doing polymer chemistry. What am I looking for in, just a second to answer that question. The cohort of students that are gonna graduate, they mainly wanna go to industry. Once I have the data, I'm happy to share it with you, but I don't have it at the moment. What are you looking for in your applicants? Well, we're looking for people that have a strong science background because we want you to be successful in the program. We're also looking for people that they have good English competencies. The courses are tough. We want to make sure that English is not an issue. And I'm saying this, English is not my first language. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and I have to relearn all my chemistry my first semester in grad school in English, even though my textbooks were in Spanish. And it was quite challenging. So we want to make sure that it's a right fit for you. And we want to make sure it's a right fit for you. This is a really quick degree. So you kind of have to have an idea of what you want to do short term. Students that come with the expectation that you have a lot of time to think about and ponder about what you want to do, it goes really quickly, right? So then it becomes a little stressful. So if you're not sure and you think you have a timeline for a PhD, then you don't. You have to be able to finish this degree in a compressed timeline. And people are motivated. That's what we're looking for. You do not have to have a lot of research experience, although it doesn't hurt. You just have to be a good match. When we look at an application, we do not point anything out. It's just everything is important. The one thing that can disqualify you, and I say can, not will, can disqualify you might be a TOEFL score, but we have some instances that students that had really, really strong English technical background, they might be asked to take some English courses before they officially start a course, the program. So it's just having a good match with your program. And that comes through your application materials. I hope I answered that question. What other questions do you have?
Hello. I was just wondering what times are classes usually offered? Is it more like nighttime classes, or are they offered throughout the day?
The classes are typically offered during the day. If a student is, we've only had full-time students, but you can do it part-time. So if you are a working professional and we know that you're going to take a class, a particular class ahead of time, we can figure out a schedule that it's probably to fix the schedule so it's better for the commute if you're coming from far away. We also have some courses that are online that are technical writing, and some independent studies that facilitate if you're a working professional. If you're a working professional too, and you're working at a company right now, there is the possibility that you can do your research at your current employment site. It's just a matter of us doing an agreement with them before your project officially starts, and that you're doing something in addition to what you're currently doing. It's not your current work, it's just something in addition to.
Okay.
I have a question about the TOEFL. Like I mentioned before, the TOEFL waiver is not automatic. So you need to request a TOEFL waiver through admissions. So you will get a letter saying this is what you need to do for a TOEFL waiver. In most cases, it gets waived if you did your degree at a U.S. institution, but it's going to depend on the other materials that you're submitting. How soon do we have to decide on this specialty that we want to study? Well, when you apply to a specific concentration, right? So you kind of need to know there. You need to know your main concentration. If you're planning to combine the concentrations, you need to explain this in your essay. If you mean by specialty, you mean your research project, you don't need to know right away. You're gonna have a semester to think about this. I have the experience that a lot of students come in thinking that they wanna do X kind of research, and once they see everything that they have to offer and they take the classes, they change their mind. Some people at the end of their first semester, they change their concentration and we change their courses. That can totally be done. I hope I answered that question. It's a little bit open-ended, but you need to have a concentration when you apply. Now, if you're torn in between two concentrations and you're better at one than the other, so for example, I get a lot of applications that they want to be bio-organic, and they have more experience and better grades in bio than in organic chemistry. And then they choose the organic concentration. They're gonna be, what we look at in your coursework and your application and your skills might be slightly different. So just be mindful of that. If you're better at one area than the other, you probably want to apply to a concentration that you're better at, but then when you come here, we can combine them. But it's up to you. Just, it's your decision. What other questions do you have for me?
I have another question. If I
Yeah.
come from an engineering background, then when I need to take courses that I didn't take that are in the minimum requirements, like you showed in the.
It's going to depend on your concentration. So you were asking me about physical and nano and all that kind of
No,
stuff.
my question was like, if you need to take some courses, then do you do that on your first semester, or you need to take them and then you start a program, or how did things go?
There's been instances that because they're not relevant to your concentration, you don't have to take undergraduate courses to start taking more advanced courses. And there's been instances that we require students to take some undergraduate courses before they start taking their concentration courses. So Yuval, that will be a one-on-one question. We can plan a one-on-one question if you want to show me your transcript. And if you want to show me your transcript and I can answer that very direct question to you in particular. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay. For the TOEFL score, it's just going to depend. With the TOEFL scores, we're asking about the minimum TOEFL. It's going to depend what was that score and the rest of your application materials. But the TOEFL, it's a tough one because 100 is pretty important. But that's a one-on-one question to whomever asked that question. What other questions do you have for me? There is no difference between the deadlines. The only time it becomes a difference is that if you are applying, if you're an international student, you're applying and your West transcript takes a long time to get here, we might run into a time crunch for the visa. If you get accepted, that is the only difference. But let's say you submit all your applications and your West transcript is not here and your GRE scores are not here or something like that. As long as you submit your application by March 1st, you're okay. If you're having troubles with something not meeting the deadline March 1st, you should communicate directly with me, ANA. I'm going to write my email here again. And you should communicate that with me. Just an average. So the cost of this program is around $60,000. Any tips on what activities we should participate on if we want to apply for the following year? Well, Nelly, that is a very general question. I think we can schedule a one-on-one either on the phone or via Zoom to talk about this, because I don't know what you refer to that. I would like to see your transcript and your CV to have a better idea of where you're at and what gaps you might need to fill in a year. It'll be easier for me to answer that question to you or anybody else that has the same question. Any other questions? Joanna, I know you asked me the questions about Ed Assist. Can you please send me an email so I can follow up with you about it? Because this app doesn't show your name, but it doesn't show your email. Okay. Any other questions that you may have?
How long after you submit like your application do you find out if you got accepted or not?
We try to let you know no more than a month, but it depends on having your complete application. By that I mean you might have completed your part, but if the scores are not here and the applications, like the recommendation letters and things like that, are not here, we just have to wait till that's there, and we try not to make it more than a month. Well, thank you all for attending. Please reach out to me if you have additional questions. Have a great evening.